you for everybody for joining. Plenty of people there listening in, some good questions that have come up really, so we'll do our best to answer them. I guess I'd say that those we can't answer we can take away and again try and answer if we can't answer them immediately now because they're a bit technical. The first one actually is actually to Yelena, is around the overseas teams being part of the mentoring program.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everybody. Welcome. So all teams are eligible to take part in the mentoring program. Like already mentioned, it is on a randomized basis. However, if you're particularly keen to get involved, which we would strongly recommend, please drop an email to either Christina or myself, and I will try and make a note of that. We're signing up our industry partners at the moment, so it's in process. If you would like to be considered, the sooner you get in touch, the better. Thank you.
Cool, thanks. And as I said, that's an excellent scheme. I mentioned before, I'll push that again. It's a really good scheme to be part of. A number of our students over the years have got jobs through that as well, so strongly recommend it. I'll go down the questions. There was the first question from Nicola around type of runway. It is a grass runway at Buckminster, so we can answer that one straight away. Next one, there's a number of questions from, I think it's Dick Decker here, which again, I'm going to start off with Martin and then see if you want to pass it on. The first one was around the question of contradiction regulations. Annex 5.1 says operating height between 40 and 100 feet steady flight, whereas 5.3 says operating height between 20 and 400 feet AGL. Or have they read that wrong?
Yes, that may be just something that we just need to clarify. So that we just have to maintain sort of safety. So from Chris's perspective, the flight safety is a paramount, but I think probably just look at that in the rules and issue a clarification.
Thanks, Martin. Next one is about, again, is the radio transmitters part of the bill of materials? Sorry, Martin, let you write that down fast. There's a whole bunch of questions coming your way. Is the radio transmitter part of the bill of materials?
It probably is. Yeah, I would have said so.
Yeah, we from the judging point of view have assumed it is.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I thought it would have been as well. Okay. Next one, can we use the base station for image recognition?
Yes, I wouldn't have thought a problem with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How does the climb and glide test work when you have a VTOL airship?
Yes, good question. I'm very tempted to hand that off to the head judge who interprets the rules, but I guess my view would be that the airship is a little bit like a quadcopter in that it can translate vertically, and it probably wouldn't score very well in a glide test. In fact, you couldn't. It's sort of a meaningless test. So, but Lambert, what's your view?
Yeah, could I just make a comment on the previous one as well? Whereas, yes, it's perfectly acceptable to use the base station for image recognition, but what we do want to see is a live interpretation of the image that you're looking at, and not someone looking at a video on your base station and saying, oh, well, that's letter T or whatever. And so if you are doing it on the base station, you have to bear in mind you're going to have to stream raw video down. It's going to have to be interpreted within the base station and be delivered to us as a live character. And so it's not a particularly efficient way of doing it. You might want to consider that you probably, with a processing being cheap as it is these days, doing it on your aircraft as being a rather better way of doing it. But yes, you can do, but it doesn't. You're not going to score the points if all you've done is an operator on the ground just looking at a video screen and saying what the letter is. Yeah, I mean, on the climb and glide, I think, as Martin said originally, I mean, you've got to make a decision as to whether you're going to try and gain those 40 points is really the answer, I think. I mean, we're going to be scoring it as the rules say, and if your VTOL thing requires to land vertically, you may find that rather difficult to do and get the necessary points. So you may decide to miss that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's a common theme, isn't it, around trading, how you derive your design and what you're going to go for. I mean, it's careful not to game it, I'd say, because you've got to be strong. But yeah, but absolutely, that's part of the deal. I think allied to that one actually is some question around the colour recognition. Can you just mention the RGB value of the ground marker, or do we need to display the name of the colour, orange, blue?
I think probably we intended you to interpret the name of the colour, and again, as Lambert says, that's got to be done automatically.
Yeah, I guess it'll be an awful lot easier for us judges to see it as the name of the colour rather than having to look it up as an RGB value. So, yeah, please try and interpret it.
Paul, can I just come back on the question on the height, the operating height?
Sure.
So at 5.1, it just gives a guidance on sort of typical suitable heights between 40 and 100 feet, and then the minimum height is noted at of 20 feet. So I don't think there's a discrepancy there. I hope that clarifies it.
Okay, thanks. So to give you a break for a second, the next question is around team registering. Again, probably one for you, Christine. I think this one is. So we had a problem when registering our team. One of our members' IMechE membership number has to be corrected. What's the procedure for that?
Usually we'll give all teams a chance to update your team details by beginning of March or so. Please look in your welcome packs. But if you just have to correct your one membership number, just send me the correct one and I'll update the database on our site. Yeah,
thanks. So again, any changes, just keep you updated. Is that the best thing to do, Christina?
Yes. So if there are any big changes, like there team members to be added to the team list, then I will send a specific form that will have to be completed with all the details, as I can't collect all of them in an email. So I'll be sending an Excel file with the team information, which will have to be updated and returned back to me. But if it's just to update one membership number, you could also email me that today, and I'll make sure that's updated on my side.
Thank you. The next, I think it's Lauren Emma, or Emma Lauren. So is there a number of airdrop boxes we can request to test? And also, what about modifications of the airdrop box? Clarification on the modifications. First of all, how many airdrop boxes going to have to test? And then I think we already covered this really about modifying the airdrop boxes already, haven't we? So
that's a really, really good question. To be honest, I haven't confirmed that with the supplier. I think I'll have to confirm with them first, but I think it's a couple at least, and they're quite generous. Let me double check and I'll come back to all teams on that one. And on modifications, I don't know if Lambert or Martin can pick that up.
Well, if I could just step in there because one or two teams have questioned that in the past, and what I've said, and Martin, you could maybe confirm this right, is no, you're not allowed to modify the box because you've got to use some ingenuity as to how you're going to do it. We said you can't protect the box in any case with anything, and so you can't stick things onto it. The box has got to be kept as it is. There are attachments for its parachute, so you could connect something to those if you like, but you can't stick your attachments onto it. You just got to leave it as it is. It's the interpretation certainly we in the judging side has made of the rules.
Yes, that's exactly the intention, Lambert.
Thanks. Yeah, again, I think that's come out. Yeah, not to modify them. Okay, and we'll go back on the number of boxes we're going to have available for teams on the event.
The sort of thinking there is that this is a payload that would be distributed and to the sort of for the humanitarian need. You can't modify them all to suit the aircraft. They've got to be standard payloads so that it's a very slick process. that makes
ISO
sense.
container analogy here. So you've got to fit an ISO container analogy type thing to this. Absolutely, yeah. Because otherwise, that's not something you'll be able to do easily, is it really? Okay. The next question was, will the ground marker identification be en route during the core challenge route? So will the ground marker identification be en route during the core challenge route? I think that's.
I'm pretty sure it is en route, or yes, it is en route broadly within the sort of a reasonable field of view.
Okay.
So if
but
you
it's
go,
not on the core. It's not on the core challenge, is it? It's on the optional one.
there's an area search on the optional one, and I think you're right. I think you're right, Lambert. It's just on the optional one. I will check that and come back in a moment.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Martin. In fact, Tassel has actually asked a follow-up question about his mentoring. So, how many members per team can be part of the mentorship program?
There's no limit. So there's no limit on the number of team members that get involved in the mentoring. When I make contact and put you in touch with your industry mentors, I will put the team leader or the academic lead, probably both of you, in touch with the industry mentor.
Okay, thank you. So here's the next interesting one. So the supplier of the power logger has provided the rules is closed down permanently according to their website. What are the alternatives? We might need to investigate that, mightn't we?
Can I jump in here, Paul? Just to make a note that we've purchased the power loggers last year, so we've got all we need for this year's competition. In terms of teams wanting to buy one for themselves ahead of the competition, maybe we'll need to speak to John Dubois to get a new supplier up there.
Cool, thank you. Thanks for that. Okay. So the next one.
Yeah, if any of the teams are requesting a power logger, please can you drop me an email so I have you on file and I can speak to find a new supplier for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Okay. So apparently some of the teams then haven't got the welcome pack. Is that?
So I've dropped a message in the chat box as well, but to reiterate, so today you all must have received a newsletter from the UAS team. The newsletter, the email that you received would have included the details of this webinar today and the link to it, and it would include the welcome pack as well. So it was sent only to those emails that got registered to the challenge. So if you haven't received it or you can't locate it, please drop me an email and we'll get that sorted. Okay.
Cool. I think the next question is for you, Chris. So do we still need to register the operator and the UAS for flight readiness reviews according to the UA regulations, or do we need to do only for the flight event?
For both, basically. The operator ID is the legal, well, they're both legal requirements for any testing. The moment an aircraft leaves the ground, it's flying, obviously. So the operator ID is there to register the aircraft and whoever maintains it and looks after it. And the flyer ID is whoever remotely pilots the aircraft. So even if it's being flown autonomously from a computer, there is still a remote pilot that presses the start and go button. So there's always a remote pilot essentially. So you do need both.
Okay, cool. How does that affect overseas teams if they're working?
That's the operator ID and flyer ID is primarily just the UK at this moment in time. We are now in line with Europe, so chances are whatever we're doing is the same across Europe for most of those teams as well, but obviously not with the UK Civil Aviation Authority, but with the relevant aviation authority in their country, as opposed to other countries, for example, Pakistan and India. I couldn't comment. I don't know those countries, unfortunately, off the top of my head. But they'll probably have something.
Okay, cool. Again, I guess if any particular problems with that one, then you just need to come through Christine, and we can investigate those, can't we? If there's any particular questions on that side from a team point of view.
There is a screen you can go to if you search UK CAA Drone Model Aircraft Registration and Education Scheme, or DMARES on Google. You should be able to find the UK page. So that will obviously apply to the mainland UK and Northern Ireland.
Thanks, Chris. So Stuart said this might need a bit more work. So the team have already contacted Air Dropbox to further our design, and it appeared to be a failing link was used to deploy the parachute via a static line. Is there a specific load to break this link that we should design to?
I think the maximum is 6 kilos that they specify. I think it's in the specification, isn't it, for the Air Dropbox? But actually, I think we allow modification of the parachute, not the actual Dropbox itself, but the parachute. So you could do whatever you like there to suit your UAS. Is that fair, Lambert?
Yeah, I think that's right. Is the rules allow you to modify the parachute, and in fact, I think Air Dropbox are quite interested in the innovation that any team comes up with on that. But yeah, I think that's what we wrote in the rules. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just answer the one on the ground marker ID? So as Lambert rightly says, the ground marker ID, there are two related searches there. There's the speed trial and ground marker ID, where the markers are en route between the waypoints. And then there's a second optional task, which is the area search, where they won't be en route. You just have to search an area. But they're both in the optional tasks, not the core task, if that helps.
Okay, thank you. Next one is, are there any limitations on the autopilot Pixhawk or GCS?
I don't think there are any limitations. You can use whatever autopilot you'd like to.
So Thomas Goonan is worried about the sand in the payload moving during the flight. I guess
That's
it's fairly static, shouldn't it?
It's a great thing to worry about. It's
yeah.
Full marks.
Yes. Okay. Right, okay, I'm just going down. So I think that's pretty much all the questions I've got. Are there, I guess, any other final questions in the just quickly type them in. I'll pick them up. Again, I think if you've any limitations on the landing method?
Well, we've seen a lot of different landing methods in past competitions. I suppose for a successful landing, it's got to be sufficiently intact to be able to fly again, I suppose. Judges no doubt would have a view, but that will be the it's got to be safe and land intact. So for some of the hybrids that can land vertically, that's absolutely fine, if that's what was meant.
I think the only thing to add to that is that we normally have the 30-metre by 30-metre landing area as well, don't we? So we want it to kind of stop and land in a specific target zone. From the BMFA side of thing, in the interest of their runway, just something that's not going to damage the grass when it lands. So preferably not lawn darts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this goes back to the ability to go again, doesn't it? I mean, let's face it, a landing is a degree of controlled crash anyway, right? So, at the end of the day, it's as we said, you want to be able to turn that round and get off again. So, you would expect the landing to be as effective and as smooth as possible, because you don't want to be rebuilding your vehicle after that, if you see what I mean. So that's it. But I don't think there's any particular way. We've seen skids, wheels, everything. I said vertical landing, if it, so again, it just depends on what you do to make the most effective land, really. Lauren's come back here. Can we clarify for the Dropbox parachute? Can we completely replace it, or just add, or amend it, or to modify it?
You can do either of those. You could replace it altogether or modify it, whichever.
Okay. We're not considering that to be part of the Dropbox per se. Yeah.
That's correct.
But I guess it must use the same attachment points that their parachute uses.
That's
Yes.
true.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we might just want to check that. Do we need to check on the rules on that one, Martin? Just make sure that's clear in terms of what they can and can't.
I think it's pretty clear, but yeah, no, I'm pretty confident that's clear.
Okay. So the question around the increased maximum takeoff weight here, does this mean innovation is expected to be the forefront, or does this just eat the burden on our teams? I guess it's a fact that we can people can. It's just allowed us to just increase the size, and whereas we were getting right on the limit all the time, weren't we? So we're able to expand the limit a bit more and allow people to, to not get so hung up on the weight, and again allows you to do a bit more innovation, I think, hopefully. But it also hopefully eases your burden. So there you go. A bit of both is the answer to that one. And would we add anything else to that?
Well, I think there was a third reason, which was that we were trying to encourage new designs rather than just reuse of past ones. So it would be difficult to reuse a previous 7 kilogram one and up it to 10 kilograms.
Okay, cool.
There was also the relaxation in the law a couple of years ago where the 0 to 7 and the 7 to 20 kilos merged into one 0 to 20 kilo category in terms of aviation law.
Yeah. So I guess this point is where we can allow that. Why wouldn't we? Because I said it helps the design. Got another Dick comment. So what if during the climb and glide test you glide down but land in quad mode for a fixed wing VTOL?
Ooh, we'd have to ask judges, I think, on that. The idea was a power off landing.
Yeah.
So yeah, how would that work?
Yeah, I think the answer has to be no, because it is power off, as you say in the rules. So unless you manage to auto gyro with your vertical propellers, which might be a bigger challenge than you might want to take on.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, we'll try our best. That's about as much as you're going to go. Yes, that's all you need to do is try your best. Cool. Excellent. So conscious we've gone over a little bit here. As a smiley face, which is always good. Okay, so I'm going to think that's probably it for the questions. This is recorded anyway. The whole thing's recorded, as I said. So certainly, please. There's more questions. I'll do that in a second. Yeah, please just make sure you watch that back. The presentation, certainly Lambert, Chris's and Martin's bits. There's quite a lot of detail. It's certainly Lambert's, but sorry, there's quite a lot of detail in there. So worth going over because I think a lot of questions get answered that one. Again, questions around how we can hold the box. I guess because this is about the fact that can't modify the box, can you? You think of an ISO container that you fit in. So effectively, this thing's got to be able to not be modified to fit. So how you connect it, there's a number of ways of doing that, but you can't modify the box itself to fit it in because you wouldn't be able to do that in this sort of environment. So again, think back to the ISO container where you can do lots of ways of holding an ISO container, but you don't actually modify the ISO container itself. That's kind of the sort of rules of the game, really.
Just one thing to chip in from my perspective there in terms of air navigation law. Just bear in mind that the flight must be deemed safe before you take off. So just think about how that payload's attached. You don't want it to fall off when it shouldn't fall off. Yeah, that's the only thing I can add to that.
Yeah, good point, Chris. Really good point. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to say I hope you found that useful. As I said, if you think of something afterwards, then please send your questions in. I guess Christine, that'll be okay with it in terms of we can always do our best to answer them. And I know that as we move through the competition, people will invariably have some questions, and we'll clarify it as quickly as we can. So thank you for attendance. Certainly, I guess it's probably quite late in the day for some people, so thank you very much for turning up. yes, and again, we'll keep you updated on progress, and let's hope for a real competition. And hopefully we'll see you in June in the what will clearly be beautiful sunshine weather in England, because it's guaranteed. So, okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.